It's been a hell of a year for Sony. We were blessed with The Last of Us Part 1, a full $70 visual upgrade of a game that's nearly a decade old at this point, and then who can forget Horizon Forbidden West, the game that managed to achieve the first ever digital fictionalized woman to feature on a real-world magazine. Then we were given God of War Ragnarok, a story of an overbearing father turned mentor slash stepfather to some old guy, and of course, Callisto Protocol managed to actually run smoothest on the PlayStation 5 at launch. Definitely some amazing press for Sony there. I didn't really know where to throw this in, so I'm gonna just throw this in here. Sony actively also was fighting Microsoft on their Activision Blizzard acquisition, in spite of them and Microsoft both agreeing to Call of Duty's mutual necessity to stay on their platform. Wild to say the least. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about the very thing we never thought would ever start to happen in a million years. And that is Sony slowly and seemingly in a much more precipitated manner starting to port their exclusive titles over to PC. We started to see this happen with Sony slowly dipping their toes in the water with Horizon Zero Dawn in 2020 being thrown on PC. An absolutely amazing game, although it was pretty quickly soured when everyone realized Sony's commitment to optimizing the game was about as rock solid as Kanye West's mental state. Fast forward to 2021, we got Days Gone on PC with a much more stable frame rate straight out of the gate with many quality of life options and improvements tailored specifically towards PC. 2 games in 2 years, everyone was impressed. Personally speaking, I love both titles and was thrilled to have them on Steam, although it's not hard to really argue these two are honestly the lower hanging fruit of Sony's exclusives, so to speak. Horizon Zero Dawn is a great game, don't get me wrong, but it isn't as established or long running as say the infamous old God of War or even Uncharted games, and not as mind-blowingly loved as Ghost of Tsushima as far as story goes. Days Gone on the other hand seemed to be, for Sony's exclusive standards anyways, absolutely shit on for being a mediocre open world zombie game. I mean, it makes sense for Sony to kind of test the market to see how their exclusives are going to work, more so with the ones that they probably projected wouldn't be as much of a gamble, but people obviously wanted more, and holy shit did Sony deliver this year. From 2 games in 2 years, we in 2022 ended up getting a total of 5. Technically 6 if you want to count Death Stranding, but it's on Xbox now, so I'm gonna go ahead and not count it. God of War 2018, Spider-Man, Uncharted 4 and its DLC, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, and Miles Morales were all given this year, with each subsequent game coming out with a stronger, more steady frame rate, more options, quality of life improvements, and previously stated options with particularly PC players in mind. Also, for those that haven't heard or were completely unaware of this, we do have 2 more PlayStation exclusives coming to PC. Of course, The Last of Us Part 1 is set to release March 3rd, 2023. In a weird way, as much as I continue to shit on it for its price and Naughty Dog arguably remaking a game that didn't necessarily need it, I will be buying this on PC just because I do enjoy the platform more and I got a monster of a PC, and I don't know, personally, I've enjoyed Uncharted 4 more here, so I'd expect to do the same with The Last of Us Part 1. Plus, the added sales would definitely boost the ease of convincing Sony to port more of their games over to PC. But the other game is Returnal. It's set to release sometime soon, hopefully. It currently has a Steam page that you can wishlist, although there is no official release or expected time frame. Of course, there are many more things we could all beg and plead Sony for, from older games like the infamous titles, old school God of War games, Cy Cooper titles, or even some more modern games like Ghost of Tsushima or Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I'm sure in time more and more Sony titles will start coming over to Steam. I don't entirely doubt older titles like Infamous or even Resistance coming. For me, it's more so a question of, is it more likely for Sony to port these older titles, or are we more likely to see newer games like Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us Part 2, and even Wolverine all being ported in a more manageable time frame? As I said, with each subsequent release, Sony has given more and more options. Of course, that's more so up to the development team behind that specific port, but in general, the sense, just looking at the track record here, it seems like Sony's becoming more and more not only open to the idea of their games being shared with PC players, but they're also starting to be presented with the best possible experience in mind, not just half-ass re-releases of their PlayStation counterparts. But obviously, it's way too early to tell what Sony has planned for the new year with their releases on both PlayStation 5 or even ports on PC. I'm just hoping we somehow come out with a much more solid lineup and more transparency with Sony on what their plans are moving forward. In an ideal world, it would be amazing to start seeing new titles get placed on PC within a year of its PlayStation release date. I don't think that'll happen in the foreseeable future, as it's probably much more lucrative to space the time out, and with these bigger budget games like Uncharted 4, Spider-Man, even God of War 2018, while the hype has pretty much died in the initial lure to convince players to buy a Sony console or even put in more profit into the Sony ecosystem via the PlayStation Store, I think it makes more sense from a business perspective, at least how Sony's probably looking at it, to wait for all that hype and potential of getting someone to buy that console has dried up, using that time as a buffer in a sense for a massive re-release or second release, and then garner a massive boost of revenue that might be up to the same levels of a new release but for an older title. At least that's my guess. It could be entirely wrong. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. Either way, it seems like at the very least, the strict view is Sony holding on to exclusive titles will start to loosen up a little bit more. 2022 was a solid lineup with, like I said, 5 to 6 titles. Well, actually, I think I messed up. I think Death Stranding actually released last year in 21. But either way, 5 games within a year, coming from a company that's been extremely, I don't want to say greedy, but protective of its IPs, going from, like I said, 1 or 2 within the span of 2 years to 5 in a single year, and each one seemingly doing better in terms of sales and overall reception. It would only make sense for Sony to start to do that more and more. Fingers crossed that we would see at least another 3 to 4 games coming out this year. But with that being said, if you had to pick, what would your ideal port on Steam be? Would it be Spider-Man 2? Bloodborne, I know is still highly requested. Ghost of Tsushima? I'd love to hear your comments down below. But like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching. And I just wanted to say Happy New Year. This was officially the last day of 2022. Cheers to hopefully a much more exciting, happy, and overall fruitful 2023 for everyone.